Bonjour, Kinamagian in Ireland Dijnikas, and welcome to this production of Support Coach Television. Today's presentation, How to Start a Community Garden, the full text. This video will accompany all three reads of How to Start a Community Garden. The first read, the orange box questions, will focus on comparing and contrasting. The second read, or the green box questions, will focus on identifying problems and solutions in the text. The third read, with the blue box questions, will focus on evaluating the selection critically. How to start a community garden. A community garden is a large area that is planted and cared for by a group of people. The garden is divided into smaller plots that individual participants care for. Although community and backyard gardens are both used for planting and growing food, they differ in several ways. Rather than working alone in a backyard garden, people who tend a community garden work with their neighbors and help one another. They share resources such as tools, land, and water. A community garden offers many benefits. It provides healthy food, helps build a sense of community, and improves the appearance of a neighborhood. But a community garden requires planning and hard work. Nevertheless, participants will be rewarded with fresh fruits and vegetables. Planning the garden. Once you decide to start a community garden, you'll need to do some planning. First, gather an interested group of people in your neighborhood to participate on a planning committee. The committee's goals are to choose a location for your garden, choose a manager for the project, gather supplies, and write up a list of guidelines and rules. Most community gardens require participants to rent a plot of their own. The rental fee can go toward buying gardening tools, such as rakes and shovels, and fencing to go around the garden to keep animals out and separate the plots. To find a space for the garden, work with your local parks department. Usually, gardens are near playgrounds, sports fields, or other shared spaces. The benefit of sharing space with a playground or sports field is that there may be a water source already in place. Moreover, the space should also get a lot of sunlight, 6 to 8 hours a day, and the soil should be good for growing food. A garden needs soil that isn't contaminated and is full of nutrients that will help your plants grow without a lot of fertilizer. Soil should have a pH of 6.2 to 7.0 on a scale of 0 to 14. The soil's pH is the measure of its balance of acids, think of citric acid, and bases, think of baking soda. The right pH balance allows the plant's roots to absorb the most nutrients. You can send soil samples to a local laboratory for testing, or you can test it yourself with the help of an adult following these steps. Step 1, locate the area where you want to have your garden. Scoop some soil into 2 separate buckets. Step 2, in one bucket, add a half cup of vinegar and acid and mix. If the soil bubbles or fizzes, the soil has a high pH, alkaline. Put peat moss found at a garden center or evergreen needles into your garden soil to lower the pH. Step 3, in the other bucket, add a half cup of water and mix. Then add a half cup of baking soda and mix. If the soil bubbles or fizzes, the soil has a low pH, acidic. Put wood ash or lime on your garden soil to increase the pH. Making the rules. Now that you have a space with healthy soil for your garden, your committee needs to set guidelines. The committee's list of rules is an important part of the project. It's worth your time to visit other community gardens to analyze and compare their rules to see if they're right for your garden. The following rules might be the ones you want to include in a contract for your garden members. Rule 1, each member is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, including watering, weeding, and harvesting of his or her own plot on a weekly basis. Rule 2, any tools that a member uses must be returned to the area designated for storage. If a member breaks or loses the tool, he or she must replace it. Rule 3, the use of weed killers is prohibited. Weeds should be dumped in designated areas. Rule 4, trash should be disposed of, and fruits and vegetables should be picked before they're too ripe. Of course, you might want to include more rules or revise these rules as you see fit. The rules should help make sure that the garden stays neat and organized. Designing the garden. Now it's time to create a garden design. First, decide how many plots you will have. The number of plots will determine the size each plot can be. You'll also have to decide what other features you will include. For example, you will likely want a shed to hold tools and other equipment. You can either buy an inexpensive shed with the money from member dues or ask handy members to help build one. Also, you will definitely want to include bins for weeds. You may want to also include a few benches. Next, you will need an irrigation plan showing where faucets and hoses will be located. Talk to the Parks Department about setting up a water source. Most likely, you will need their help to do this. Some community gardens include plots for children to garden. However, others are adults only gardens. Evaluate which plan works best for your community. If you go with the adults only plan, you might include a play area for children. Whether you decide to plant flowers or vegetables, you should consider placing low bushes or flowering plants along the outer edge of the gardening along the fence. This way, people who are walking or driving by will see them and appreciate the beauty of your garden. Be on the lookout. One problem all gardens face is pests, such as rats or raccoons. These animals come looking for food and a place to live. They can make a mess and ruin vegetables. If you find evidence that animals have been in your garden, here's what you should do. Make sure there is no standing water in your garden. This requires emptying buckets and putting them away in a shed. Also, keep covers on any compost bins so that animals can't get in. You may also want to install a fence. This will ensure the bigger pests such as deer can't get in. A fence will also keep out people who are not members. Let the Green Fund begin. Although there are some potential problems with planting a community garden, the benefits far outweigh the challenges. Think of the beautiful and tasty treats a community garden can provide. Consider the fun you and your neighbors can have working together, learning new skills, and watching nature at work. Start your community garden today. You have now reached the conclusion of the full text. Please return to your Google Classroom for further instruction. Minwa Pamapi.